The one part of the word amazing, the very beginning, is highlighted, the awe part. Awe harkens back to the awe factor. This is your tool to use as you start your day. Amazing is all about tapping into that awe factor. What is the awe factor? It came about a year ago when I was scrolling through Netflix and this documentary caught my eye. It was called Operation Arctic Cure. And since I live in Alaska, I was like, what is this? I got to find out what the cure is, because I already feel like these wild lands and the mountain vistas and just how this untouched beauty is so very healing. I wanted to understand their angle. And as I was reading the description, I saw that they incorporated research and science, and they took in these veterans. They took them on exhibition to the Arctic, and particularly the veterans were experiencing or suffering from PTSD and depression. The Operation Arctic Cure documentary aimed at figuring out whether or not the awe factor, which is something several experts have talked about or have studied in their research. Alan Klein wrote a book about it. Francis Chan talks about it. And in this documentary, Dr. Craig Anderson is the one who was doing the research and taking in monitoring these veterans and their levels and their progress throughout the expedition. And we're going to unpack that a little bit more as we go along. But in essence, they took them out to these remote locations in the Arctic, specifically to create or to expose them to these natural wonders and in a team environment, so that camaraderie could be gained, which we know that like connection, person-to-person connection, fires off feel-good chemicals like oxytocin, the love and connection chemical. So in essence, they were trying to create an environment that would create the awe factor. And I hate to spoil it for you, but they did find the awe factor, and a lot of them made progress, and it was so inspiring. So I started to incorporate this in my morning rituals, not necessarily super intentionally, but just like, I think I became aware of when I reached that awe factor, because after watching that documentary, which I highly recommend, especially if you are a veteran or if you know veterans, is because I was able to witness the signals of when you hit that awe factor. And I was like, oh, that's what that is. So let's go back to the word. The word for the spiritual toolbox is amazing. This already has two different layered meanings. One is that, number one, you are amazing. And number two, life is amazing. I think we take for granted, especially when we're just like in the grind or in our mind, that we lose sight of the absolute amazement, like all the miracles that are existing within us and outside of us. We lose touch of just how truly amazing this life is. Maybe we don't slow down enough to reflect on that. So the reason why I pulled the word amazing is just to harken back to that, to like, yes, this is truly a gift to be here. It may not always feel like that. There may be some hard days, but nonetheless, it's a gift to be here. And so many miracles had to happen. So many situations and perfect timings and divine orchestration had to happen for each and every single one of us to be here. And it's pretty amazing. So that in of itself is kind of the anchor tool to layer in a little bit deeper. The one part of the word amazing, the very beginning, is highlighted, the awe part. Awe harkens back to the awe factor. This is your tool to use as you start your day. Amazing is all about tapping into that awe factor. What is the awe factor? That is the connection, or tapping into that connection that we are all part of a greater fabric of life, as I like to say, or it can make you feel like you're part of something bigger. That could be divine source connection, but it's generally a powerful emotion that can feel like euphoria. It can feel like wonder. It can just make you feel small in comparison to the grander scheme of life, or the grander force and creation of life. That is the awe factor. How do you know when you've hit the awe factor versus just having a deep level of gratitude for something? That is a great question. I'm glad you asked. The actual difference is pretty remarkable. Like, there's more physiological differences and changes that happen when you hit the awe factor versus deep gratitude. With gratitude, I definitely feel that heart expansion, and maybe it's like the oxytocin chemical firing off. But with the awe factor, that's endorphin based. So that's gonna exhibit a little bit more depth and more expansion. And I feel it more happening beyond my senses, I guess. How I know I hit the awe factor is when I cry, when I just get a little like misty-eyed, because it's just all so profound. You know what I'm saying? Like the wonder, the amazement, the appreciation, the gratitude. I think there's not even a word. I'm struggling to find the word in our English dictionary of emotions, of frequencies, because it doesn't exist. That's why I cry, because I can't, like, I'm emotionally overwhelmed. It's so much, it's so big, it's so powerful that I just can't. So I cry. And I think that crying is also a release, at least it is for me personally, a release of the lower vibrations that and stagnation that I was holding on to, of limiting thoughts and beliefs, which is where our mind occupies us and our egos. So if you've been spending some time, a little too much time in that, like sometimes I have to do just task work, and unfortunately sometimes I can stretch on for days. It's more mind and ego based, and not ego based, but I'm a little bit more into my mind, and I lose sight of this bigger, grander tapestry of life. And so that is the awe factor. Returning back to that can remind me and remind each and every single one of my cells, trillions of them, that we are part of this bigger picture, and it delivers us back home, if that makes any sense. So we talked about what the awe is, what the awe factor is, and how you know you've reached it. I want to talk about some of the benefits. As you can imagine, it lowers cortisol levels. That's why they connected these veterans who were experiencing depression, which is symptoms of PTSD, and they're going through other emotional healing, which is another benefit that the awe factor delivers. It may be a matter of doing this over and over for a while to really cover a lot of ground with that emotional healing, but it is there. It is an instant stress reliever because, again, your problems get put back into the micro box. They're not as macro as you think. When you tap back into that awe factor, it's like you're zooming out and you're seeing the forest beyond the trees. You know what I'm saying? And so for that factor, you can bet on your cortisol levels reducing, you're re-regulating your nervous system, and resetting it to a more healthy state for overall well-being. Your emotions will regulate accordingly as well. As these changes occur, you'll probably notice some facial differences if you pay attention to it. I like to pay attention to it because then it's more feedback like, yes, I've hit my mark. And they also talk about this in the documentary. When you hit the awe factor, your eyes sort of, your pupils widen. It's like you're taking in more wonder. And our pupils also dilate when we are experiencing lots of joy or euphoria, when we are celebrating. It's an open, expansive experience, right? And what else happens? I think like the jaw relaxes too. Just really interesting how these micro changes physiologically show up on our face even. Hope you enjoyed this amazing spiritual toolbox tool. Be sure to catch the next one, and I'll see you soon. Bye.